Our gospel this morning is from the book of John, chapter 14. Philip said to him, "Lord, show us the Father, and we will be satisfied." Jesus said to him, "Have I been with you all this time, Philip, and you still do not know me? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, 'Show us the Father'? Do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words that I say to you, I do not speak on my own, but the Father who dwells in me does his works. Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father is in me. But if you do not, then believe because of the works themselves. Very truly, I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and in fact, will do greater works than these because I am going to the Father. I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. And if in my name you ask for anything, I will do it. If you love me, you will keep my commandments, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to be with you forever. This is the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it neither sees him nor knows him. You know him because he abides with you, and he will be in you. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
This was 17 years ago today. It was our first birthday as a co-op, and this was us marching from here down to the not the gallery, but to the theater to celebrate. So can you all see? I've rescued this from the other building because it's on a wall that's gotten a little wet. And I love this picture for a couple reasons. One is these 4 kids. This is Claire Hammond, David and Delia's daughter. This is Alexis Campbell. That's why I like it. This is Jamie Shania, Paula's daughter. And this is Austin Ewing, Larry's grandson. What you don't see in this picture that I always remember was the 2 boy acolytes over here, who I believe were Sam Hansen Richter and Will Smothers, who have grown up to be amazing young men in spite of a lot of things. They were carrying those 2 oil-filled candles, which became lightsabers as they were marching down. Now, this is not an oil one, and then came running to me because there was now oil dripping down the candle, dripping down their hands, and all over their robes. So that's the story that's going on the side. Through that, we've survived for 17 years, and here we are. But I thought you guys would all enjoy some reminiscing, which also leads me to maybe being talented here. Whoops. Answering the question today of how the co-op equips me to go out into the world And this quote came over a couple days ago on Facebook, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is so apropos for my story. And it says, religion is at its best when it makes us ask hard questions of ourselves. It is at its worst when it deludes us into thinking we have all the answers for everybody else. And this came into play because kind of the story I wanted to talk about, and I mentioned it a few weeks ago, was Mike and I were at a winery, no surprise. And as we were walking out, there's a sign that talks about all the next musical groups that are coming up. And I said aloud, oh, the one band that we really wanted is not on this list. And the gentleman that was sitting at the end of the counter said, oh, do you like them? And he proceeded to tell us how he had been in that band and how they were falling apart and how they all owned things and a whole story. And then somehow got into the fact that he was a music minister. So of course we jumped on that. Oh, well, this is what we do at our church, and got talking a little bit. His next comments were what kind of threw me back. He said he had interviewed as a music minister for a Methodist church. I think he said Philomath. And he said that the pastor there told him he would have to be accepting of the assistant pastor because that person was gay, and that they were inclusive, they were all accepting, and it was good. And his comment was, can you believe that? He said, this was a 78-year-old pastor saying that? He said, yeah, you can bring them in, but not in a leadership role. And you need to be converting them because it's written in the Bible. It says that. And I stopped and said, well, this is where we tend to disagree. We don't believe that. And he's like, well, but it's written in the Bible. Michelle, you've got my slide. I have more show and tell. So all I could think about was the sermon and this great chart, Brennan, that is ingrained in my brain, and I'd like to have a copy of it because I'd love to hand it to somebody, that says Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, for you guys who are here, one angel's already there, two angels, no angels, one Mary, two Marys, no Marys. Jesus appears as they're leaving. Jesus never appears. He appears as a gardener, or he's boogieing down the street on the road to Emmaus. The Bible, to me, was written by men. Now, there are things that I believe are straight up on it. For instance, we should love one another as ourselves. And that doesn't mean that we love the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant straight neighbor who mows his lawn every week and goes to church and is married to another straight opposite sex person. It doesn't say that, but those are the things that this congregation has taught me. And to say, I'm not the judge. I believe in basics. I come here to be nurtured, to understand things like this, to be with you all and have dialogue, to come to Bible studies, to come to book studies, and to be filled so that I can go out and say to this guy, I'm sorry, I don't believe that. I believe I'm not the judge. I believe the Bible was written by men. But I can also know that as he was basically almost coming across the table at us, that what this says is it's the worst when it leads us into thinking we have all the answers for everybody else. It was not the time, the place to go into a major dialogue. I know you're wrong and I'm right, because that was not going to get anywhere. But again, this church and this congregation has taught me that I'm going to be a witness in how I can, and I can take things like this from a Sunday sermon and other Sunday sermons, and I can go out there and I can be a better person and I can witness that way. And it's all because of what happened 17 years ago here at the co-op. So thank you. Who's next? Don't battle over there, ladies.
Well, my name is Mary Ann Turner, and you've been getting to know me. The question I got was, how does your experience in the co-op counter the forces in our culture that attempt to tear us apart? And that was a hard one. Life these days can be a scary thing. To try to answer the question of today, I actually made a long list of what in our culture attempts to tear us apart. The list was so endless and depressing, I had to quit. But there seems to be a common thread through much, maybe all the list. Fear. Fear that we don't have enough. Fear of others who don't fit into our group. Fear of not fitting in at all, or not being or doing enough. Fear of isolation and loneliness, and on and on. Fear causes us to put up walls, buy guns, lock our doors, and prepare to fight. Or maybe we just try to hide in a dark hole somewhere. 2 years ago, my husband and I moved into McMinnville. We had spent a year completing 35 years of remodeling work on a 1926 house in Portland. We sorted through all our stuff, found a city to move to, and then a house to buy, while we also sold our house. We had to overcome a lot of fear and anxiety to get here, and then we had to start over in this new small town, leaving friends, a neighbor my kids grew up in, and my former church. We thought we were ready, but the transition has been more taxing than we realized. We've been learning a lot about ourselves and each other in the process, not all pleasant or easy. At times, we've doubted our decisions. Fortunately, one thing we haven't regretted has been living near our daughter, Rebecca, who's over there, and son-in-law Ephraim, and our dear grandkids, Adrian and Isabel. As we began to find our way around, I also reached out for a church. I started attending the co-op via Zoom, wearing a mask, sitting on my daughter's couch, as vaccinations were not fully in place. From Rebecca, I had been aware of the history of the co-op over the years. She, Rebecca, was the first in a long list of others who helped me connect here. She had told people I was coming, so people like Jeannie Sherman and Gail Anderson very quickly reached out to me. They invited me to join the Women and the Word Bible study, a non-denominational group at the Presbyterian Church, which I attended the last 2 years, and many other activities and groups through the co-op. They have kept inviting me, even when I have been anxious or said no at this time, and they haven't given up on me. Rebecca knew I was interested in the Exploring Spirituality group and attended with me. I next joined a small group on developing a personal theology led by the intern, Rachel. Sharing the struggles and hard theological questions in these groups, along with people like Pastor Brennan and Jim Dayton and others, without judgment, has given me a safe place to go deeper in my faith. Throughout this time at the co-op, I have seen and experienced the kindness and acceptance of others, whether they were young people like my grandchildren or older people in care facilities, diverse groups by culture, sexual orientation, and even people like my husband who does not get this loving God. I appreciate the focus on protecting the natural world and on supporting people in crisis. Rebecca even got me to volunteer with the Saturday breakfast one time, and we went together. I intend to do it again. A lot of things in the world around me continue to trouble me, but I'm never alone in dealing with those problems. Just as I continue to struggle and at times wonder what my personal purpose is or what I am meant to be doing next, this community at the co-op is asking the same questions as a church. Change will be ongoing, I'm sure. Transitions can be hard. But as long as we hold on to the love of Christ and allow the Holy Spirit to work in our hearts and lives, God continues to bring us together. I know there are infinite ways we can share God's love with others, big and small. The people and practices at the co-op inspire me to keep going. When I am unsure or fearful of next steps, I can do the next simple thing that happens regularly here at the co-op. I can trust in God despite my fears, smile, start a conversation, walk beside another person, welcome them in, offer support as needed, and treat every single person as a child of God that is loved beyond our imagining.
Good morning. I'll repeat the question again because it's a long one. How does your experience in the co-op counter the forces in our culture that attempt to tear us apart? I have not been a member of our church as long as many of you, or have the history, but I believe our church equips us for coping in these challenging times. I think one of the main reasons I chose to join this church was the choose love, not fear sign, along with the sign stating our inclusive beliefs. I believe hate is rooted in fear. Just look at the international situation now, full of violence and hatred. There are plenty of examples of fear-driven hate here in the States too. For example, this week I received an email entitled, "When People Sell Hatred for Profit." It told about how the World Jewish Congress, in an effort to stop the spread of hatred, got Amazon to remove some 940 works of Holocaust denial and anti-Semitism. Cultural divide refers to the factors that create rifts in our society that make it difficult to live happily together. The co-op has helped me and continues to help others in our community to find a way to navigate in a time of so many disruptive forces. How? Our church leads by example. The fear of hunger and what it can lead to is addressed by our Saturday morning breakfast. We have wonderful examples of this in our members, Ben Stein, Michelle, and our former member, Rebecca Sweet. Rebecca showed me her love for this community one day when she told me she had just found out that she needed to make a soup dinner for the homeless in McMinnville at the Baptist church that evening. I asked her how she was going to pull it all off at the last minute, and she said that she just better go home and get cooking. And I was amazed by her, just ready to pitch in and do it. She was also instrumental in our collection of warm clothing for the needy and homeless in our town. We have Glenda and Alan who have served for many years at Parkview and share the garden's bounty to all of our community. Yet another example of the co-op's love for our community is the support of Sue Buell School by Ann Van Sickle and other members of our church who have worked together in helping to provide for the children's learning experience there. Here it is fear of not knowing, not being included, not understanding, because it's ignorance that leads to lack of respect for other people's culture and way of life. These are some of the ways our co-op members empowers us, to make a difference. As the song says, we can make a difference. Some of my neighbors now help out at our Saturday morning breakfast because they heard about our church making a difference in our community. And this brings to mind words from another song. You can see with Andy's, I know lots of songs. And they will know you are Christians by our love. In 1 John 4, verse 8, we read, "There's no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear." People get rid of fear of rejection, disapproval, and opposition by being filled with the assurance of God's love. Hate is rooted in fear, and the only cure for hate is love. In summary, I'd like to paraphrase a quote by Martin Luther King. People fail to get along because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. And they don't know each other because they have not communicated with each other. I believe that co-op helps us all communicate love in this community and the world and counter the forces that attempt to tear us apart.
Want to thank everyone who shared. I think the music team can go get ready for the next song. Pentecost is always a special time for me because I get to hear from you. And we're doing a little bit more of that. We have done a little bit more of that in the past, last summer and things like that. But there's a lot of wisdom here. There's a lot of the Spirit moving. And it's always a blessing to hear from you all, and not just like me rattling off things all the time every Sunday. And it's important not just for me to hear it, it's important for you to hear it, because you are all very much a part of what happens here. So thank you for those who shared.